All right, well, good afternoon. Today I'm going to be doing something just a little bit different. Once again, we are sitting down with a live stream. However, today I'm not going to be performing anything. I'm not going to be sharing my thoughts on music or anything like that. Instead, we're going to be looking at books. Right now I've made a little bit of a mess because I wanted a nice thumbnail. So, excuse me just a second. I see that my exposure is adjusting automatically. I don't really want that. So I'm just going to quickly go into my little editor here and change that. Okay. Okay, now my zoom is zoomed all the way out. Pardon this. Give me just a second. I'm using this weird third-party Chinese software to control my settings on my webcam, so it's a little bit imperfect. But now I think we are ready to rock and roll. I am sipping on some coffee in my very favorite coffee cup. The coffee is off screen, of course. Use a coaster, please. Save your coaster. Save your table. Use a coaster. All right, so I'm going to clear these off really quick, and we'll get right into it. Now, not every book in my collection has tons of pictures in it. Obviously, those are the most interesting ones. The ones with pictures in it, that is. So I'll focus the majority of our time looking at books with interesting interiors. However, I do have some interesting covers in my collection that we will look briefly at. I'll intersperse those throughout the stream. So let's start off with this one. This is called First Shapes by Ivan and Jane Clark Chermayeff. And for those of you in the know, this is actually a rather interesting bit of trivia. My friend reminded me that Chermayeff was one part of a graphic design company in New York. I'm going to have to look up what their full name is. Excuse me one second. Yes, they were. He was part of a design company called Chermayeff and Geismar and Haviv. They created the NBC logo, the Chase Bank logo, the National Geographic logo. So this guy has kind of had his hands in everything. However, this is a children's book about shapes and colors, and you might, it's a bit of a different take on what we might be used to, what we might be used to seeing from a children's book about shapes, but we'll get into that. I absolutely love the color, the choice of type that they used. I really like how there are all these little hand-drawn elements here. Once again, absolutely wonderful choice of colors. I'm gonna bring the exposure down just a little bit so it isn't gonna blow the highlights out. I'm not going to read all of this, of course. It says, shapes are used to describe and to remember. Shapes can be added onto or carved out of. They can be arranged in patterns, up, down, and every way. Simple shapes are best, but the complicated ones can be nice too. I don't know, it's just such a charming approach to a book of shapes. One, we've all seen a book of shapes for children. They can be very, very simplistic, and I know that that's sort of the point of it, but I like the approach that this goes for. So square, diamond, triangle. You know, it's not just showing you a shape and going like, you know, this is a diamond, this is a square. You know, you kind of have to look in the image for it. And I'm an absolute sucker for kind of the DK Eyewitness approach to layout and design, you know, where you just have just this nice high quality image against a stark white background, some nice colorful text. I don't know if you're able to pick that up here, but I mean, each, they give the title of the page in a couple of different languages. I believe it's French, Spanish, German probably, and I'm not sure what the other one is, but each is in a different color. Everything's color coded. It's a lot of really nice pictures of old historical artifacts, that sort of thing. Just a really really fun approach to, once again, what some might consider a very banal concept, you know, the shape book of shapes for children. But that's what makes this so intriguing to me. You know, it's almost like an art book. I mean, I treat it like an art book. But it's clearly intended for children, and I think that is, you know, I take issue with people that talk down to children. You know, children deserve intelligent things as well. So I'd really like to have this mug. It's a beautiful mug. Let's see, look at this. Like this leaf right here is representing the circle, and I don't know, like, it's just not, you know, not the most obvious thing. I like how it combines both things on both sides. We have the star, put the star in the center, circle around the exterior. It's just a really interesting presentation. Takes a little bit of thought to sometimes find the shapes that they're referencing and that sort of thing. So, oh, I love that. Just absolutely beautiful colors, and just love the detail and the layout. It even has an index. Don't know of many children's books that have an index in the back and pronunciations. And by the way, this was copyright 1991. There's the man himself, I believe, excuse me, with his family and his child. So yeah, those First Shapes by Ivan and Jane Clark Chermieff. Wonderful little book. Now we're going to move on. This is another one where, oops, I hit my light. By the way, I would highly encourage anyone who is watching to put some relaxing music that you like on in the background. I'm obviously not going to do that because I don't want to risk being copyright stricken. Just taking a sip of coffee here. So of course, I'm not going to do that, but I would highly encourage you to put on some music that you find relaxing. Be that, you know, jazz, ambient, you know, house, chill, lo-fi, hip-hop beats to relax / study to, whatever that may be. Put it on in the background. I'll probably be here for a while. I have a lot of books. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get through the ones that I want to get through today. So anyway, this is Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene. Now, there isn't really that, you know, there's nothing really worth looking at from a visual perspective on the interior, obviously. You know, this is just a book of text. However, I really enjoy the layout and the art this book has. I just like how the reviews of it are kind of on their side, and how it works with this absolutely lovely artwork on the cover kind of reminds me of some of Terry Gilliam's animation work for Monty Python. And I believe it does say here in the beginning who did the cover. No, it's on the back. Excuse me. The jacket illustration is from a painting by Desmond Morris entitled The Expectant Valley, photographed by Richard Kenward. In this particular volume, copy, print, this was published in 1976, I believe. So I'm just going to let that sit there for a little bit. I don't know, I just really enjoy the art of this and how it looks, that sort of thing. Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene. All right, we're going to move on. This is a very peculiar book, one that I enjoy looking at quite a bit. This is called, not quite sure how to pronounce this. I'm assuming it's Charas, C-H-A-R-A-S, The Improbable Dome Builders, which is a wonderful title. With an introduction by Art Buckminster Fuller, who you might know as the inventor of the geodesic, is that correct? Geodesic dome? Is that how it's said? I don't remember. So this is a very unusual book. I'll read this little bit of text here on the bottom. Positive solution in a usually negative environment. The people of Charas may occasionally attempt to outreach their actual potential, but the reaching is strengthening. In the past, they may have boasted of more than they accomplished. Nevertheless, they give others the hope and vision that change is possible. To people of the ghetto who live an existence with few alternatives, Charas has shown that life need not be a series of dead ends. It is important to remember in this instance that the process is more important than the product. Of course, you see a couple of very cool men standing on the top of this igloo. I'm not sure if you're... Oh yeah, you can see this. I'm going to look at the spine really quick. I love the hand-drawn title of the book and this little logo right here. I'm going to raise this up a little bit. I love it. It's really quite lovely. And I am going to read just a little bit of this, maybe to shed a bit of light on what this book is about. In 1970, a meeting was held in an empty loft of a condemned factory building on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Although it was the setting for a motion picture gangster gathering, it was the first dramatic encounter between R. Buckminster Fuller, the celebrated and revolutionary architect and inventor of the geodesic dome, and 6 ex-street gang members who called themselves Charas. As a group, Charas was interested in physically altering the housing conditions of their immediate neighborhood. Unfortunately, though, their skills were basic and their educational background limited. After a few hours, despite all the impossible barriers between Bucky and these street people, they found themselves in an earnest rap session. Somehow, I'm not sure if they mean like actual, literal, like rap, like I'm a rapper. This is 1970. I don't think that rap was a thing yet. Somehow Bucky had turned them on, and their excitement and commitment became apparent. It was late into the night when the meeting finally came to an end. The young men of Charas had decided that they wanted to begin actively implementing Bucky's ideas. Thus began a unique project under the guidance of Fuller and his assistant, Michael Ben Eli, both of whom believed that these young men had great untapped potentials. After a period devoted to the intensive study of solid geometry, spherical trigonometry, principles of dome building, and a myriad of related subjects conducted by Michael Ben Eli, Charas broke ground to construct a geodesic dome for their community on a plot of land in the shadow of the Manhattan Bridge. And it goes on the back half, but I think that's probably all we need to know. Very awesome mutton chops, and once again, lovely logo. Jacket designed by Design Art Associates, by the way. So once again, absolutely lovely hand-painted logo here. they really hit it out of the park with the way they implemented photography into this book. This was published in 1973. This book is dedicated to everything that is with a capital I. All right, let's just flip through here really quick. So I believe that is Buckminster Fuller himself. This reads like some horror movie poster or something. There's some plans for a geodesic dome. I'm just gonna flip through here just a little bit. Got a man with his little dog. What looks like a workshop. You can see a little model geodesic dome, another plexiglass dome up here, a bunk bed. It's really quite an ideal setup. I like it quite a bit. Once again, like the layout on this is incredible. I like how much they mix it up and yet how organized it feels. Here they are building what looks to be maybe a prototype of a dome. Yeah, they're constructing the dome, and there it is. Now, from my understanding, they're building this for homeless people? I'm not entirely sure. That's my understanding of it. Looks like some stills from some news reports from New York talking about it. A little press conference, maybe. I really like this this fold out here. It's like a contact sheet with just a bunch of photos of the construction of the dome, or just the dome itself. And I particularly like this little grouping right here. I'll raise it up just a little bit so that maybe you can see just a little better what we're dealing with. Just a lot of pictures. Very nice. Wonderful, lovely hair. Oh, it looks like somebody says there it was. The small dome had been totally destroyed. What happened? Looks like it caught on fire. He saw fire department trucks parked down the block. A quick sprint brought Roy alongside the fence. The firemen were smashing the small dome into unrecognizable pieces. In his usual stoic state, he entered the field to inquire why this demolition was going on. Shortly before Roy arrived, a call had been placed to the fire department reporting an intensely smoky fire burning at South and Jefferson Streets. Fire Department Company 17 immediately responded. They discovered the small dome with heavy smoke billowing out of it. In their overly zealous manner, they started to chop and rip apart the entire plastic-covered cardboard structure. Apparently, what had occurred was that an unknown person had come into the dome for shelter from the rain and then, very neatly, had built a great fire pit. Once the fire started, the smoke could not escape since the dome was fully covered by plastic. In his haste to retreat from this smoke-filled enclosure, the fire was kicked onto some plastic sheeting that had been stored inside the dome. The smoke from the burning plastic became even more profuse. Whoever had first entered the dome for the very reason it had been erected, namely shelter, then fled into the soggy night. Okay, so it's just an accident. I'm probably going into this more in depth than I should. You know, if I'm hoping to get through some of the, more of these books, I really shouldn't be devoting this much time to it. But this is just such a cool book. I can't really help myself. I actually haven't read, actually sat down and studied this book so much. A lot of these books, I may be looking at them, super in depth for the first time today. So I may take a little bit more time on some, but I hope to get through these fairly quickly. And looks like we just have some character studies of people involved. I feel like I would have liked to see like a Maisels Brothers film, documentary on this. I think that would have been a good fit for their style. Lots of words. Got anything more interesting? Just gonna keep flipping through here. It looks like the printing got a little dodgy here, maybe. Looking very intellectual. Yeah, I think the rest of the book is just kind of interviews. And then we actually get instructions on how to build your own. They really just went above and beyond with this book. It's really fascinating. Yeah, here's the entire instructions on building the Charas dome. So that was Charas, the Improbable Dome Builders. This is a fascinating book, one that I really ought to study a little bit more. It's a very interesting topic. I love the photography, and I feel like there are a lot of intriguing people featured in this. So it's definitely something that I intend to return to in the future. All right. Excuse me for a second. I'm going to rearrange these books just a little bit. This is a book that, oops, I gotta stop hitting my light stand. This is a book that some of you probably know. This is Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials, Great Aliens from Science Fiction Literature. When I was a kid, I went to the library. This was one of the books that I really liked looking at. I checked it out many times, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then I found it in a bookstore, and I had to pick it up. It's just fascinating. You know, I loved the presentation and the art in this thing. And I would encourage you highly, if you haven't, to look through this book and see for yourself. You know, I'm not going to take the time to thoroughly look at each of these, but all of them have a lot of detail given about them, and I would encourage you to seek it out of your own volition. You'll probably get a lot more out of it than just watching me look through it. Just some absolutely lovely classic. I don't know, when was this published? 1979. It's kind of that golden age, in my opinion, of science fiction and fantasy art. I just absolutely love the way that this stuff used to be rendered. And I think it's a shame that stuff isn't kind of done like this anymore. A lot of this stuff is kind of what inspired No Man's Sky, regardless of what you think about the game. I think that that's a really honorable pursuit, and I really appreciate somebody, you know, in more mainstream circles taking note of just how awesome stuff like this is. So yeah, these are just kind of, this is a collection of famous aliens from works of fiction, literature, etc. I believe that there is an H.P. Lovecraft creature in here. If I can find it, I'd like to take a look at it. Oh, these are absolutely lovely. Some of these are quite terrifying, really. By the way, let me check. I just want to. Who illustrated this? Wayne Douglas Barlow and Ian Summers. Okay. Just credit where credit is due. This is some top-notch design. Oh my goodness. This really brings back memories for this, because like I said, I was kind of obsessed with this book when I was a preteen. You know, just love how imaginative this stuff is. This one reminds me of the that Chad versus Virgin meme. Um, look it up. This looks like the Chad. They even give you a size chart so that you can know how big all of these things are in relation to each other, which I think is a really, they really took this stuff seriously. And I like that someone out there knew, exactly how big all of these are. It could tell the artist, oh yes, it's exactly like 1.8 meters tall. I think that's quite cute. Okay, yeah, here's a Lovecraft monster. Here's the old one. It's really interesting seeing some of his creatures rendered so, I don't want to say accurately, but like, it's just generally unusual to see some of his creatures, actually rendered. You can actually kind of grasp what it was that he was going for. Some of his creations are just so out there that you can't really. Well, that was kind of the idea, wasn't it? You aren't really supposed to be able to rationalize these. Well, Jim Henson, little guy. Oh, puppeteer, yeah. Anyway, yeah, incredibly imaginative and lovely artwork in here. Once again, I highly, highly encourage you to check this out because the art is incredible. And we even have some little sketches, just kind of conceptual sketches. Even show like the anatomy, and I don't know, like I love how seriously they took this stuff. This kind of reminds me of speculative zoology. If you haven't heard of that, it's where it's kind of a hobby, I believe, of like zoologists who they just make up their own creatures and go into as much detail as they can about it. It's quite an interesting field. So that has been Barlow's Guide to what was it? Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. Absolutely charming, wonderful, quirky book. Highly recommend. All right, let's move along. This one, the cover is primarily what interests me. This is Uniqueness and Diversity in Human Evolution by Charles Oxnard. Morphometric Studies of Australopithecines. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Now, once again, there's most likely absolutely nothing of interest in the interior. There's a lot of, scientific, little diagrams and all that sort of thing. But, fun little lemur guy. But not really anything worth poring over. But I kind of go crazy over this color, this shade of orange. And this is also published by University of Chicago Press. And they pretty consistently, from this period, had some spectacular book design. And this won't be the last you'll see of them this afternoon, hopefully. Published in 1975. Yeah. Just absolutely lovely design from University of Chicago Press. All right. Now this is going to be a book that I haven't looked that deeply into, but I picked it up because I knew that there were some lovely photographs in it. This is The Concerned Photographer. It's again a very nice logo here. I think this might be a series of essays. I'm not quite sure. Let's see if I can't find a a description of what this is. 1968, first printing. This book is dedicated to the ideals of photojournalism. Okay. So I believe that these are just, it's a collection of work by famous photojournalists of the period, I guess. Investigating social issues, I'm assuming, based on the title of the book. That's a really nice one right there. 1951, India. That's cute. Now, you know, obviously, if I could, oh, this is D-Day. Don't want to hurt the spine here. If I could, you know, I would be going through each and every photograph, and we would just, you know, just look at them. But I don't want to take too much time with this. So it's just kind of gonna flip through this. This is in Hungary, by the way, 1919, 1920, thereabouts. All right. Oh, this must have been difficult to get. This is 1926. I don't know how they timed that. It's quite spectacular. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a very famous photograph. I wish they'd give the story of it, because it's quite an interesting story. What I believe this is this child was in a concentration camp, and she was rescued, or she got out, and she was in an orphanage or some sort of asylum or something, and the cameraman asked her to draw a picture of her home, and this is what she drew. It's a really chilling photograph. Very sad situation. So yeah, just a lot of, oh, I love this. Nova Scotia, 1950. I've been thinking a lot about the east coast, the sea, recently. So yeah, very nice book. Wonderful photographs. Definitely deserves a more complete look. Much more complete. Yeah, here we go. Tereska, a Polish child in a home for disturbed children. When asked to draw a picture of her home, she produced these scrawls. So, all right. That was The Concerned Photographer. Okay, let's move along. Since I have two kind of similar books, I'm going to put these both out on the table. We'll go through these one after the other. These are both kind of sculpture guides, I believe. Meant to accompany exhibits of them, or I'm not entirely sure. This one is Storm King Art Center Sculpture Guide. And I personally really enjoy sculpture. It's one of my favorite things. I reference it, or I take cues from it a lot in my own photography. So I love collecting books about it. Okay. So yeah, just a lot of really lovely pictures of sculptures and the like. I'm just a total sucker for that sort of thing. And this one right here, very similar. Sculpture in the Highlands. It's from 1980, the Scottish Sculpture Trust. This book is quite similar to the last, which is why I'm including it in tandem with the other. We won't spend too much time on this, just kind of to get a general idea of what it's all about. Once again, some really lovely photographs of sculptures and the like. I believe this might have been like an actual sculpture walk, like all of these are on the same route, and you could see all of these if you walked the trail. I believe that might be what it's about. So yeah, this is the Storm King Art Center Sculpture Guide and the Sculpture in the Highlands books by Landmark and Glenshee, and then this one, what was this from? 2015. So the newest book in this collection I've shown yet. And I know that you can't tell, but this has a lovely kind of textured, bumpy, almost cardstock cover to it. It's really a lovely presentation. I like it quite a bit. All right. All right, let's see what we have here. All right, I'm reaching. Here we go. Now this is a book I actually haven't looked at that much, just because it is kind of difficult to handle. This is Mutations. I think that it is a collection of essays about cities. It's got a really odd design. This is almost like this material. It's kind of like a raincoat. It's like a plastic. And then this is it's almost like a mouse pad material. It's kind of squishy. It's very odd, very, very weird. And then there is a CD in the back, or some sort of DVD. I haven't looked at it. So yeah, it's just a bit difficult to handle, to be honest. But I quite enjoy the, somebody trying something different. So I believe it's about city design, which is a really interesting topic. Lots of photographs, lots of infographics in here. That's nice, like that. Let's see what else we have. Oh, it looks like we have a bunch of photos of cities in here. It's quite nice. I didn't know these were in here. Oh, wow. That's bizarre. I don't know if I like that. It's a little weird. Lovely aerial photographs of parking lots and interchanges, neighborhoods. Oh my goodness, more neighborhoods. Yeah. Carnival. Is that Legoland? No. Looks like a mini golf thing. Okay, we're going to move on from this section. Oh, there's a lot of these. And a lot of the book switches between paper types pretty consistently, so it makes for a very interesting, like, textural experience. Just a whole section on bridges. Oh my, that's freaky. I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like that very much. More photos. And some nice street photography. Looks like a party. Oh, I like that. Almost looks like it was shot on a cell phone or something like that. This is a very interesting photo. Like some children going swimming in a quarry, looks like. So again, I'd probably be able to appreciate this book a lot more if it was just easier to handle. It's a very weird form factor. It's a very weird design. It just makes it a little... You can't just plop down with it. You kind of have to handle it, wrangle it a little bit. And it's sometimes a little annoying if you're trying to do like just some casual observing of a book. So yeah, lots of different stuff in here, lots of variety. They're pointing out some things in here. I don't quite know what that is. Probably means something. Got some slums. Mickey Mouse. Hell yeah. Number of logos the average American urban dweller encounters in a single day, 20,000. I can believe it. When was this book published? Let me check. I wonder if that number's gone up. Hello? All right. You're not quite sure? Not sure. It doesn't, I don't know. If it says, I'm not sure where. So yeah, this book definitely warrants a little bit of digging into. Very interesting book. Mutations. About city design, urban living. Very odd book. I said that we weren't going to be seeing the last of University of Chicago Press, and we are getting another of their books now. Chicago's Famous Buildings, a Photographic Guide. Excuse me. So again, here's that lovely shade of orange. Just a really beautiful cover. The back is the same. Well, different text layout. I'm not sure if I care so much about this. This probably has some significance to the city of Chicago, but it kind of clashes with the more brutalist or whatever minimal design of the rest of it. But I'm not sure if this is like a travel guide. It sort of feels like a travel guide. It just shows a lot of famous buildings from around the city of Chicago. Various styles, you know. Frank Lloyd Wright. There's probably quite a bit of Frank Lloyd Wright in here. He did a lot of houses around Chicago. Yeah, that's another Frank Lloyd Wright. Looks like a Minecraft house, to be honest. In a good way. So yeah. Just really nice presentation. Fun photographs of the buildings, and kind of get the inverted, the exact inverse of the cover. Well, of the dust jacket. So yeah, Chicago's Famous Buildings, a Photographic Guide, University of Chicago Press. Okay, now this one's a little funny. One of my very favorites. Math Equals Sorcery, Know the Truth by Steve Box. This is an absolutely incredible cover. You see this. I'm going to bring this closer so that you can see, because it's incredible, the amount of detail and artistic merit that this cover has. You have this melty-faced demon man with his big flask. He's preparing a brew. You can see a skeletal hand holding what looks to be a syringe. There's another ghostly hand rising up out of the smoke. And then you can see the citizens, the poor depraved souls of the world, flocking to get some of that meth. You can see a mother offering her poor child, her baby, her infant son, to meth. This guy is shooting himself in the head. People from all walks of life. You have a cowboy, what looks to be, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be a Muslim. You have a, I don't know, I was going to say it was maybe a Buddhist, but no. Somebody who appears to be dabbing there. It's just a very, once again, it reminds me of the excellent work of Hieronymus Bosch. If you've ever looked at his great, timeless, legendary painting, Garden of Earthly Delights, I feel like this is a very comparable work. Definitely displays a lot of humanity's troubles, puts them right in your face, you cannot deny it. Meth certainly does equal sorcery. Here, this is the man himself, Steve Box. And it is supposedly revealing the truth about meth and how it relates to demonic warfare. At least that's what I'm going to assume. I have not given this book a thorough read, as it certainly deserves. But no, it is certainly one of my very favorites. Can I find out who drew the cover? I need to know. Okay, about the cover. God showed me a vision for the cover of this book. I then explained the concept to artist Mike Kaufman, who drew it. Mike is also an accomplished guitarist, drummer, and also known as the harmonica guy. Besides being extremely gifted musically and artistically, he is a devoted family man and a true warrior in God's army. Wow. Let's hear one for the artist Mike Kaufman. Math Equals Sorcery, Know the Truth by Steve Box. Wonderful book. All right, let's move along. Oof. I set my books too far away from me. They Became What They Beheld. I absolutely love that title. I'm not quite sure what it means. Really interesting layout here on the cover. Photographed by Ken Hayman, written by Edmund Carpenter. Have some quotes on the front and the back. I think this is somewhat similar to the other one, the other book that we looked at. It's photojournalistic in nature. I really, really love this photo. I thought about stealing this one, using it as an album cover. I'm sure that's legal. This maybe is a little bit more focused. I think it only has one photographer. Crispy, delicious. Just seems like a series of short essays on different aspects of, I'm going to assume, American culture. But once again, I haven't fully, looked through this book. Lots of dogs. Looks like a little bit of a public freakout moment here. Lots of excellent street photography. Some pop art. By the way, I didn't check when this book was written. This is from 1970. 1970. What is this, Woodstock? I'm not sure. Looks like some sort of protest, maybe. Yeah, this looks like Central Park. He broke into the vault, the bank's vault. He's checking to see if the coast is clear before he runs away with his bags of cold hard cash. Once again, this is the sort of book that you would really want to... Oh man, what are they doing? How disrespectful. Standing on all those tombstones seems unsafe. Anyway, once again, stuff like this really warrants, you know, a nice, thorough sit down with the book just to kind of get a feel for what it's all about. Of course, we aren't doing that here. We're just kind of skimming through each. They Became What They Beheld. Ken Heyman and Edmund Carpenter, 1970. Now, this is one of my recent favorites. It's a really fascinating subject. It is called In Advance of the Landing, Folk Concepts of Outer Space by Douglas Curran. And it is essentially, by the way, there's some lovely, like, got little stars on the inside cover. It's just so fun. It's just it's a really fun little book. Essentially, it is about the public's... I don't even know. I'm going to see if I can read some text about this. Look at that. Okay, this is just about the guy. Okay, I think that this is about... I'm really struggling to put it into words. It's kind of the public's reaction to extraterrestrials, UFOs, that sort of thing, and what they did because of it. Concrete flying saucer found in the San Bernardino Hills, Paris, California. Flying saucer drive-in. Yeah, it's kind of like pop culture. UFOs and extraterrestrials, and how they kind of infiltrated the public consciousness. Ruth Norman heads the Unarius Educational Foundation, preparing Earth for the arrival of spaceships from the Intergalactic Confederation. So, is this book about people who believe they're going to be going to space? Interior of Unarius headquarters with a model depicting Ruth Norman's late husband, Ernest L. Norman, at his present job as moderator. Where? Is that him? That little skeleton? With a model depicting Ruth Norman's late husband. Yeah, he would be a skeleton, but that's... Is that him? I don't know. I'm going to leave that alone. Landing site for the 32 city ships from the Intergalactic Confederation. Welcome, Space Brothers. So this is where you're supposed to land, your transport ships, when they come to take you to space. I love this this photo. It feels like some... You know the hotel from The Shining? This floor kind of reminds me of that. I like to imagine that that hotel is hosting a conference of these people, these crazy alien cultists who believe they are going to be they're going to be carried off into space to join their alien brethren. The Warfield brothers, Brian and Mike, at the Unarius Conclave of Light. I love that. That's incredible. So yeah, that's kind of what this book is about. It's people's relationship with the concept of alien life, UFOs. Members of the New Age Foundation join hands to create a cosmic brain battery to summon UFOs to land at the 20th annual New Age Convention, Mount Rainier, Washington. Of course it's Washington. Also, lots of religious crossover here. It's Jesus with the world. Carl Gendro predicts that an airliner and a UFO will meet within 3 years. This man made a wonderful rocket ship. Evan Hayworth and the Interstellar Technical Research Billennium Falcon. Billennium. It's not the Millennium, it's the Billennium Falcon. Goodness. So yeah, this is a fascinating book. Definitely it deserves a more thorough reading of the text, just to kind of understand the approach that they are taking. Orlando Tironi spends his nights on a hillside tracking spaceships hiding behind satellites. Well, that's clever of them. How does he know they're there? Maybe the text explains. This is another really fun photo. John Shepard has converted his grandparents' home into a UFO detecting station. I love that it specifies this is his grandparents' home. Look at all this stuff that he hauled in. They have such patience. It's incredible. So yeah, just a lot of really, really odd pictures and stories, and that's quite nice. I like that. Sculptures and oh my gosh, I don't like that. That is freaky. Alien humanoids built by George Rackus. I mean, it's art. If I saw this in an antique store, I would buy it, but I would lock it up. I wouldn't look at it. If I could avoid it, that is. Very dour man up here. Huh. Well, yeah, this is a fascinating book, one that I'll probably be revisiting in my own private reading time in the future. In Advance of the Landing, Folk Concepts of Outer Space by Douglas Curran. And this was published, I need to start doing this right up front. This was published in 1985. Alrighty, let's move on. Alright. Okay, while we're on the subject of aliens and just general weird things, I have another 2 books that I will feature. My Trip to Mars, the Moon, and Venus by Buck Nelson, and the Starseed Transmissions, an Extraterrestrial Report by Raphael. We're going to talk about this one first, because I have a little bit of a story about this book. Now, this one is very interesting and has a bit of personal history for me. I grew up in rural Missouri, southern Missouri, and this man, Buck Nelson, pictured here on the cover, is something of a local legend. He lived in a town that wasn't more than 20 minutes away from my home. And in 1956, he claimed to go on a grand interstellar trip with some spacemen and their large space dog. And it's an incredibly charming read. I've actually considered doing a full reading of this book on this channel. I'm not sure if I will. I also love that they included this picture in the book. It's such an odd photo. He has crazy eyes. But anyway, it's an incredibly entertaining read. Everything is worded very plainly and oddly. You know, he was not a writer. A lot of this, I believe, was actually dictated. He drew a diagram of the architecture. He details, okay, you know, this is what our trip to Mars was like. This is what our trip to Venus was like. Here's a building on Venus, probably an industrial building. Looks very industrial. Kind of looks like some sort of ship, seafaring ship from the front. There's a clock on Venus. Yeah, it's a very interesting book, and he would hold space conventions, and in his hometown, which once again was very close to me. He would hold these conventions, and he would speak at the library, and people would come from all around to meet him and talk about his trip to space. And it's an incredibly charming, bizarre, eccentric book that, you know, if you're interested, let me know, and I will do a reading and a discussion of this book in a separate video. My Trip to Mars, the Moon, and Venus. This is not an original copy, by the way, of course. Originally, it was copyrighted in 1956, but this is an edition from 2006. The earlier copies have a much more interesting cover. Unfortunately, I just don't have that. So anyway, there's that. Now this book, I don't really bring it out because I think that the cover is that extravagant. I just kind of want to talk about this book a little bit. This book was written by a man that I actually knew. This is not his real name. He was named Ken Carey. And back in, when was this written? Like in the 80s. He wrote this series of, I'm not even sure what the point of these books are. It's kind of like, I'll read this, but I don't think that it actually has any bearing on what the book's about. I look out across the slumbering sea of humanity, and I whisper these words in the night. And I know that I address a great being, sleeping still in ignorance of itself. I know that if the wild winter winds of your communication systems sends tatters or fragments of this message echoing in the darkness, it will still be to the unconscious that I speak. For the conscious have seen the sky start to brighten in the east, and have felt the warming spring of eternal life begin to thaw the hardness of their preconceptions. So yeah, I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about, but it's worded very well. It's very well written, and I'm going to venture a guess that this is something maybe in the vein of what L. Ron Hubbard was doing, you know, with Dianetics and that sort of thing. This might be some sort of, you know, scripture to some extent. I don't entirely know, but like I said, I knew this guy. I met him a couple of times, and at one point my friend and I actually went to his house, which he built himself. Once again, just outside of Mountain View. These guys probably were alive, or, you know, at the same time at some point, lived very close to each other. Just kind of interesting coincidence. And like I said, Ken Carey built this house himself. It was like something like 4 stories tall and very thin, you know. So it was almost like this little skyscraper right in the middle of this kind of pine forest. It was incredible. Lots of huge windows, very odd architecture. And he took my friend and I up to the top floor, and he said back in the day, he had like an office up there of like 5 secretaries, all writing down his words and distributing it, and, you know, lawyers and all that sort of thing. He still had like boxes of manuscripts, and there were all these massive windows. The whole room was padded with like canvas that had been stretched over the walls, and then there was like some sort of insulation inside, like cotton or something. Just a very, very interesting design. A very tall room. Once again, it was extremely high up in the air, kind of in the tops of these pine trees. It was one of the most interesting houses I've ever been in. Unfortunately, shortly after that, he passed away. He was fairly old at the time, but my friend definitely knew him a little better. He would take him to baseball games occasionally, local baseball games, because he didn't drive. So he kind of got to know him a little better. He told me one time they were driving and they hit a raccoon that was trying to cross the road. And out of nowhere, he just kind of gave this very eloquent eulogy for the raccoon. I wish I could give you more details about this. And my friend and I still keep kicking ourselves because he would have been an absolutely amazing subject for a documentary. Like, I wish we could have had an opportunity to interview him, just to talk with him, because he was an incredibly fascinating person. So yeah, this book is by him. I also have another book by him that's actually attributed to him instead of the pseudonym. I'm not sure why he used the pseudonym. But anyway, fascinating story, fascinating guy. Equally fascinating, maybe not as fascinating because I didn't know this man. Both very similar, taking place in the same location, both with a pretty personal connection to me. Both hold both of these books in very close to my heart. All right, let's move along. This is an old book. I've had this forever. I think my parents got this for me when I was a kid. Topsy-Turvies, Pictures to Stretch the Imagination by Mitsumasa Anno. And if you flip it over, everything's in reverse. So this is just kind of M.C. Escher-like / just generally mind-bending images. Just art. Generally with some interesting kind of spatial twist to it. I'll flip this one upside down. I used to stare at this book for hours when I was a kid. I have a lot of very, very fond memories of this book. All of the pictures depict these little like gnome or elf characters. Just a very, very interesting, very unique book. I like that it's a slightly more playful twist on some of the ideas that M.C. Escher came up with. This one always used to trip me out. Had no idea how to interpret this. So bizarre. You can really spend a lot of time looking at this. Lots of, oh man, this one is genuinely really interesting. So let me see if I got this piece of paper here. So if you cover up half of the image, you know, it's a normal image. Then if you cover up the other half, it's the same scene looking straight down and flipped, I believe. It's just a very, very interesting concept that I haven't really seen anywhere else. Let's keep going. All right, Escher-like impossible geometry. Same here. And yeah, just a really fun, short, sweet little book. Topsy-Turvies, Pictures to Stretch the Imagination by Mitsumasa Anno. I'm just going to quickly check to see when this was published. It is not going to say. It's missing like the inside cover, I believe. All right. I'd really like to get some prints of that book if possible. Don't know where I'd be able to find that, but I think that would be lovely. The Mummies of Guanajuato. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. This is a photo book of a bunch of mummies with a short story by Ray Bradbury. It's a really odd combination. And once again, I haven't fully read this book through and through, so like I can't say, you know, what exactly the purpose of including a Ray Bradbury story in combination with these images of Mexican countryside and mummies. I'm not sure what the significance is. But it is still quite fascinating, very nice, lovely, large images. Just gonna keep going. By the way, this is copyright in, the photo's copyright 1978. Story 1947. This book is published in 1978. Yeah. There's a preface. I'm sure it explains things a little further, but I'm not going to dwell on that now. This is really fun. So yeah, now there's just the short story here running side by side with these images. And then there's this this news clipping. The revenge is an ancient ailment. Not know if this is the Sunday World Herald magazine of the Midlands, October 1980. Not quite sure what significance this had. I don't think this has any bearing on it whatsoever. This does, however. I believe this is it's talking about an ailment that maybe was unearthed by archaeologists during their digs, perhaps. Not sure. So anyway, the story continues. Very large print. And then we get to more photos, which are quite grisly, very grotesque. Nonetheless, very fascinating and beautiful in a way. Not that. I don't like that at all. Mummy. Another mummy. This guy looks really angry. He looks grouchy. Just gonna move along. If you've seen one, oh, yikes. Kind of seen them all. I don't want to dwell on this too long. Like I said, it is quite grisly. Then close the book. Kind of bookended with the same image. If I can get see if I can get a full spread on this cover. Very interesting book. All right, let's move along. All right, now I have a couple of books here that are more just interesting covers, not things that we need to discuss terribly in depth. Here they are. These are 3 books by McGraw-Hill Paperbacks, and they consistently have some of the very best covers that I've seen on a paperback book. They're quite exceptional. I'm gonna flip these over. Just really immaculate, wonderful, tasteful designs on these books. These 2 covers, I believe, are by Rudolf de Herek. Hope I'm saying that correct. And this one, the cover design was by, they're all by Rudolf de Herek. So anyway, I just got these because they're beautiful to look at, and I like having them around. It's important to, I think it's important to kind of surround yourself with beautiful things that inspire you, whether or not you are gleaning any, quote unquote, intellectual benefits from them. I just think that it is, in general, a very good idea to keep things around you that inspire you. And these are certainly inspiring, especially since I do graphic design. A lot of these books, I picked up solely for the reason that they were inspiring to me to some degree. That's why I have them around. So yes, a couple McGraw-Hill paperbacks. Lovely design. Okay, let's select another one. I really made things difficult for myself. I set my books far too far away. Let me see if I can reach these. Maybe just a second. Oof. All right, so I'm going to pull out a couple of books that I think complement each other very nicely. Maybe even 3 books, but I'll see. Oh, Java. Good grief. Sorry, I just got a pop-up on my screen telling me that there's a new Java update. Wow, been waiting for that. Really appreciate it. Anyway, here we have the Calumet region, An American Place, photographs by Gary Cialdella. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Of course I am. And American Beauty, photographs by David Graham. And I'm going to look at this one first. I'm going to set this one to the side. I selected these because I feel like they show 2 sides of a similar coin. Show 2 sides of the same coin, potentially. Anyway, this is American Beauty. I don't really so much care for the cover design on this. You know, I just don't really like the style. The title has this kind of lime green stroke around it. I'm not sure that you can see. Don't like it very much. But it's really the photos that I got this for. Got some, is it called New Topographics, that style? Photography. Kind of puts me in mind of some of that stuff. They're very, a lot of this reminds me of the David Lynch film Blue Velvet. Like, especially the opening where you just see like these gorgeous, like, lush colors, greens and blues and flowers and all that sort of thing. It's kind of small town life in America, all around the country. Some really quality images, generally with a very optimistic vibe, I guess. I guess that's what I'd say. Just very cheerful. Colors really pop. Some very quirky and eccentric scenes. I really like this. This little man here. He reminds me of Mike TV from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Let me see here. All right. Sorry about that. This is a very interesting picture. I'm not sure which came first, the mural or the car. I feel like they crashed their car just so they could take this picture. So I think this was... But why did you make a mural of that? I don't know. It's quite bizarre. It's very interesting. You know, a lot of these, they kind of give you just this very brief insight into like these, you know, what you'd call unknown people, what their lives are like. An incredibly tall man with a very long dog. I have a feeling like his dog's body is very long. This little artist's studio. This is really incredible. I like the use of the flash here. This looks like a bedroom in the 80s. Some sombreros, some wonderful nude pictures, lots of hats, little toy tiger, little radio. Very 80s. Some more 80s interiors. This is the image from the cover, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but there are children up here. It's kind of like the Statue of Liberty, where you have just a little observatory at the top. Excuse me, I'm just gonna deposit some more coffee from my coffee pot into my cup. If there's anything more, there's a couple drops. Very good. It looks incredibly unsafe, and the fish looks quite scary. I don't like it very much, but it is what it is. Tourist stuff. Really fun fun little backstage area here. These in particular I really like. Like, this is a really interesting photo. Just have like these mounds of, I'm not sure what that stuff is. It might be part of a quarry. It says it's a drive-in theater. Maybe the entrance to a drive-in theater. Nice monkey. And I'm going page by page here because I think all of the photos in here are excellent. Really have a lot of character to them. And it's not too big of a book, so I think we can get through it pretty quickly. This is interesting. This reminds me of like, are kids just supposed to sit on this? This reminds me of the end of Dr. Strangelove, where there's the, what is it, the general guy is riding on top of the bomb. Is that what they're trying to do here? Is that what that is? That's bizarre. Sightseeing, little overlook points. Tourists or just general fun havers. Really like this guy here. Earl McCarty from Hot Bottom, Pennsylvania, 1985. This guy's just out in the middle of nowhere. What's he doing? Who's he performing for? He has like his little backup tapes here. A little power generator runs through here, and then he plays along with it. He's just out in the middle of a field, though. He even has just a tiny little stage. It's interesting. All right, so that's that book. Now, like I said, I feel like this book complements this other book quite well. So I'm going to be showing these one after the other. I'm just going to set this down here. This is the Calumet region, an American place. And I like this because I think it takes a similar spin on, well, a different spin on a similar topic, I should say. It has some, it actually has the guy's business card in here, which is interesting. So it's a lot of very large, panoramic, very bleak images of, I think it's around Gary, Indiana, these are from, around that area. So a little bit of an introduction. Here we go, photographs. Let's take a look. So yeah, this is definitely more my sort of thing. I really like stuff presented like this, just very flat, very lonely, kind of bleak. I like it a lot. So yeah, it's just a lot of photographs taken from around that region, showing kind of like a contrast or juxtaposition of, you know, blue-collar family life and the infrastructure surrounding them. Factories, steel mills line the shore, childhood memories of the old neighborhood, and American place. So yeah, that's kind of what the whole book is about. Lots of photographs of houses and factories and, you know, just a very, I like this one a lot. Just a very odd, bleak vision that I like quite a bit. Since a lot of these photos are kind of samey, I am going to flip through this fairly quickly. But yeah, I really like the vibe that this book has. Oh, and I need to... The border of Indiana and Illinois, on the south shore of Lake Michigan, all roads lead elsewhere. So it's kind of like a dead end sort of not dead end. Yeah, dead end area. A lot happening, a lot of opportunity. So yeah, it's sort of showing the impact of big industry on small community, I guess. Lovely. Oh, abandoned. That may not be abandoned. Little carnival swing. There's the carnival. Oh, that's nice. That's happy. All right. Now I mentioned that there was. Oh, I was going to say when this was published. Excuse me. 2009. Okay. Now I actually think I am going to show one more book in this couple of books because I feel like it goes with this book, the book preceding it, quite nicely. It takes a bit more of a human approach than this one does. Let me see if I can reach it. Come on. Where are you? There it is. This is Homeless in America. It's a book of portraits and interviews and essays about the homelessness crisis of America in... Yeah, Homelessness in America is a powerful new collection of black and white photographs which graphically depicts the human element of homelessness in the United States. So that's kind of the whole book here. There's some very, very poignant, very sad photos in here. This is 1988. This was put out by Principal Funding for Homelessness in America, provided by Triangle Industries. This was actually a project done by a homelessness outreach program, I believe, but I'm not remembering where it said that. Great big old vacant building. There's a man shaving. Life in the woods of Naples, Florida. Many men camped here are Vietnam veterans, day laborers who find housing in Naples unaffordable. So yeah, it's a very political issue. I'm going to read this. This looks interesting. Darkness has not path nor matter to touch. Blindly you walk into it, hoping to meet no obstacles. The further you walk, the more lost you become. You look back and don't know how far you have gone. You look ahead and don't know how far you have to go. You hear noises, but you can't see anything. You become afraid. Fear of not knowing creates panic in your heart. For some reason, you go on. You hope there's an end, a place of light, a place where you're not alone. Time has no meaning, but you hope to get there soon. Poem found in Abandoned Tent, Burlington, Vermont, July 1987. So I'm assuming this is the tent that poem was found in. That's quite haunting. Lots of amazing portrait. Man with No Socks, New York City. Robert Cox holds photographs of family. He died January 1987 during a snowstorm. Yeah, there isn't really a lot to say about this book. I mean, it's just a very, it's a brutally sad and disturbing book. and I don't think I really need to explain why or how I feel the way I do about it. I find it to be an incredibly powerful collection of photos. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to dwell on this too much longer. It's just kind of a lot more of the same, more poetry. And then it closes with kind of an essay about what these organizations that help put this book together are doing to help, I believe. So that's kind of a nice way to end it. Yeah, how you can help. This is very nice. We must create long-term solutions to homelessness to prevent homelessness from becoming an American institution. The following organizations and agencies can help you take action by providing more information on homelessness, etc. So yeah, Congress, tells you where to send letters, and so yeah, very ultimately, very, don't know quite how to put it, really empowers you to do something about it. It's a very important issue and a very good book. Excellent collection of photos, and yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll move on. All right. Let me see. Now, I'm actually going to need to take off my microphone briefly. Pardon the noise, because I cannot reach the books that I want to talk about next. In fact, I'm actually going to take a quick break. I'm going to use the restroom, drink a little bit more of my coffee, and then I will be back. I'm going to mute the mic. All right, and I'm back. Just spent a little bit of time reorganizing my books, getting everything a little bit closer to me, more in reach. So I should be able to continue without too much trouble. Next up, this one may be tooting my own horn a little bit, but you know, who cares? This is Observations in the Ordinary by Subjectively Objective. And I had the great honor of being included in this book, featured. One of my photographs was featured in this book, and we'll come to that in due time. But in general, it's a really solid collection of photographs. They recently had an exhibition somewhere, I forget where. Yeah. So, you know, once again, kind of similar to the last couple of books that we've taken a look at. Primarily film photos, modern. This one came out last year. But yeah, each photograph is by somebody different. There's just a lot of really solid work in here. This is a style that I really like. I like the eye that the person who compiled this has. It's a really lovely scene there. I say this is a lovely scene. It's not, you know. This is a very bleak scene, but that's what I like. Maybe it's wrong for me to find enjoyment in scenes like that, but from an artistic perspective, I like it quite a bit. I'll leave it at that. I like how the shopping cart is kind of lit from behind by the reflection of the sun off the windows. It's very cinematic, like it's a star in a movie or something. This is a bizarre photo. I kind of want to know, like, where is this? Why is this room just covered in granite? I'm assuming that's granite. This reminds me of the ending of Fantastic Mr. Fox, when they're all dancing around in the supermarket. It looks quite a bit like that. Incredibly moody photograph here. This one's very cinematic. I like that a lot. Yeah, like I was saying, I mean, of course it's an honor to be included in any book, but the photographs featured in this book are just so good that, you know, I'm honestly, you know, a little ashamed, you know, to even be included here. This is incredible. That's incredible. The house just burned down back there. I mean, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, such a shocking contrast. So yeah, just absolutely lovely. Oh, do you see that? Look at that little gal peeking out the window of the motel. It's only like the second or third human that we've seen in this book so far. Just very, very empty scenes. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. Yeah, and I would encourage you to seek out this book. You can actually buy this online. I believe you can go to their website, which is subjectivelyobjective.com. This one's nice. This gives me Napoleon Dynamite vibes for some reason. Anyway, it's subjectivelyobjective.com. I believe that's where it is. And you can buy a copy of this book. I believe it's for about $40 or $50. In my opinion, it is money very well spent. As you can see, these are very high quality images. Just fascinating images. And once again, I'm incredibly honored to be featured here. Oh, there I am. That's mine. That's my photo. This is from my old hometown, West Plains, Missouri. They had a little pallet factory, little lumber yard back here, and then there was this kind of little Little apartment complex. I don't know what you'd call it. Kind of in front of it. Just an interesting panorama. I'm going to continue flipping through. Oh my goodness. Look at Jesus. He's menacingly emerging from the wheat and displaying some to you as an offering. I can only assume a peace offering. So yeah, incredible images. Highly recommend this book. If you have the money, do consider picking up yourself a copy. I know that it would help out the publisher quite a bit. It's just a very small, personal, oh, there's my name, oh my gosh. Sorry. This is a limited edition of 750. I believe it is still on sale though. So, Observations in the Ordinary, go check it out. A very good book. All right, that's enough self-promotion, or kind of secondhand self-promotion. Let's move along. We've looked at quite a few photo books. Let's shake things up and look at a book that does not have pictures in it. Just a cover. Oh my gosh. I still didn't put these books close enough. Okay. All right. I'm back, I believe. Really should have planned this out a little better ahead of time. Okay, this is Mental Maps by Peter Gould and Rodney White. It's a Pelican book. And this is a very odd book. I'm going to read the back because it's a very novel concept. Mental Maps is a study of the geography of perception, of the mental images we form of places which are inevitably shaped by a selective channeling of information. A New Yorker's mental map of the United States is significantly different from a Californian's, and it is well known that most Southerners think Bangor, Maine is inside the Arctic Circle. The mental images we construct are crucial in deciding where to live, in the siting of factories and new towns, in our choice of holidays, and in our attitude toward other people. Geographers are now trying to measure mental maps to discover how they are formed and how they differ. Peter Gould and Rodney White have written an exciting and sometimes surprising survey of this new area of inquiry. They include accounts of mental maps at work in America, Sweden, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa and Britain, and an analysis of the implications of their findings. The opening of this new field of study will be of vital importance for future planning and for widening our perception of the environment. Now, this is the first I've heard of this. I don't know if this has gone on to be, a pillar of modern urban planning. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But, I picked this up because it's a bizarre title. It's a really bizarre cover. You've got, like, a topography of, like, a human head with these little trees for hair, and it's just bizarre. Is that a railroad crossing for each nostril? I don't know. I don't know how to read topographic maps that well. This is from 1974. And there's actually some interesting images on the inside. I take that back, but it's not like there's photos, that sort of thing. But this is definitely something I would consider reading just because it's such an odd concept. Has kind of an Inception vibe to me. Have you heard, I don't know if you're aware of the concept of lucid dreaming, but supposedly there's a theory in those circles that, they're trying to map out this kind of dream map, like commonly experienced locations in dreams, and they're trying to piece them together into one comprehensive map. Their idea is that all dreams take place in the same universe, and in a dream you could potentially travel to other locations that other people have experienced in their dreams. I don't know. It's a very out there concept. I don't know how seriously even they take it, but It's just a very unique and intriguing idea. Somewhere in here, they show, yeah, Los Angeles through the eyes of black residents in Avalon. Los Angeles through the eyes of Spanish-speaking residents in Boyle Heights. Now, my question is, how do they measure this stuff? You know, what is their process for getting this information? You know, I don't know. It just gives me so many questions. Here, these people are trying to draw a map from memory. Maybe that's how they do it. Like they compare maps that people draw from memory to, you know, accurate maps and see how they differ. I don't know. Anyway, very odd book, very interesting book. Definitely something that I will probably read and study in the future going forward, because it's just such an odd concept. Yeah, mental maps. Pelican Books. Alrighty, let's move along. This book is called At Home / Not at Home, Works from the Collection of Martin and Rebecca Eisenberg. And I think that this is just a book featuring artwork from the private collection of this couple, 2010. It starts out with a few series of, of pictures of the interior of their living space. Honestly, I wish that the book was all kind of like this, because I feel, especially when you're dealing with a personal collection, it's far more interesting seeing how things are displayed in, you know, a living space. I find that much more interesting. The rest of the book is kind of just, you know, it's just sort of flat, you know, very sparse images of these pieces of art that are in their collection. Nothing necessarily bad with it, but I don't know, I just kind of like seeing how things are arranged and displayed in a personal living space. I just think that's very interesting. I wish they did a bit more of that in this book, but it is what it is. It's still a very fun book that I like quite a bit. This reminds me of Twin Peaks. Yeah, just lots of interesting little pieces of artwork. Some of it, you know, isn't exactly my taste, you know, but some of it I like quite a bit. Like some candles stuck onto like a piece of bent rebar or conduit, looks like. So yeah, I wouldn't say that this is like my favorite book in my collection. However, I think I enjoy it more for just kind of its presentation. I love the form factor, and I really like this font. I'm assuming that's Helvetica. I like the layout. And, I mean, at the very least, I just like how eccentric and varied the styles of art displayed are. Look at this little monkey with eyeglasses, spectacles. I don't know, it's very quaint. I like it a lot. Yeah, pretty fun. I'm just gonna finish flipping through here and we'll move on to the next book. Alrighty. Once again, this is from 2010, At Home / Not at Home, works from the collection of Martin and Rebecca Eisenberg. I think I mainly bought this actually for the cover. I buy a lot of things for the cover, usually not actual photo books, but I don't know, I just love how this looks. This is a really great image, in my opinion, and I just like how the text goes with it. It's just, it's nice, very nice. Okay. Give me just a second. Okay, they're gone now. My cousin is down here in the laundry room working on some laundry. Anyway, now the next book, I'm not going to try and pronounce the title because it is in German, I'm assuming. And it's I don't know, once again, just beautiful, beautiful selection of fonts and layout and size. It is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, it is an enormous book. So we're going to go through here. Just look at that text. That is beautiful. Oh, let's check when was this published? 1997. This is from 1997. Some interviews and... Okay, so I believe that this is a photo essay on a collection or a grouping of ironworks, abandoned ironworks in Germany. So that's how I'm interpreting the translation that I'm seeing. So kind of similar to that that one book that we were looking at earlier about Gary, Indiana. And I'm just sort of a sucker for big abandoned industrial complexes, old infrastructure. I like it quite a bit. I also love seeing kind of the grass, weeds kind of starting to overtake everything. Whoa. Well, that's really incredible. How do people keep track of, designing things like this? An old little, I don't know what you'd call that. What do you call that? Bulldozer? It's not quite a bulldozer. Little industrial machinery. Just gonna skip ahead a little bit. So yeah, I just like looking at books about architecture and that sort of thing. I wish I understood architecture a little bit better, just because I think it's such an interesting area of art. Anyway, that was this book. Once again, I'm not trying to pronounce this cover because I pronounce the title because I would fail miserably. So I'm going to skip that step altogether and just say, this is a good book. I like it a lot. Let's see here. What is up next? Oh, I know what I want to do next. This book is once again in another language, and I picked it up in the architecture section of my local used bookstore. So I'm assuming it has something to do with folk architecture. I don't know, but I don't know. I was just really drawn to this super high contrast, grainy pictures of wood grain, log cabins, thatch roofs, and just the, I know you can't tell, but the texture of the paper is really nice. It's kind of rough and thick. By the way, this is from 1990. I believe this book is Polish. That's what I believe. There's lots of text in a language that I do not understand. Just going to skip through that. Got like a little egret or something. A little nest at the top of a very long, it's almost Dr. Seussian. It reminds me of Dr. Seuss. So yeah, I believe that this book is a study of folk architecture from Poland. That's what I think it is. I just love the photographs in here. Just like the really high contrast look, and the texture of this paper really adds a lot to the experience, and I'm sorry you're missing out on it because it just feels so good. almost like a very thick newsprint sort of feel. That's what I'd compare it to. Oh, that's lovely. So yeah, I enjoy this quite a bit. It's just very fun to look at. Oh my goodness, I love that. Looks like somebody inscribed something on that little post. That is beautiful. All right, now, Kodak logo. That's bizarre. Little street lamp. So it looks like it's kind of progressing slowly to modern times, and how modern times are integrating with this old architecture. Wish I could understand what's being said here. It's probably quite interesting. That is amazing. And that's the book. This is one of my very favorites in my collection. Once again, I kind of wish I understood what was going on in it just a little bit more, but that doesn't really matter because the focus of the book really is on the pictures, and the pictures are just excellent. So yeah, this is Architectura Druniana by Jan Władysław. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassing myself. I'm just going to stop there. That's it for that book, and we're going to move on. How about we look at just some interesting cover art now? Here's a book called No Deposit, No Return by, Man and His Environment, A View Towards Survival, edited by Huey D. Johnson. And this, I believe, is also a collection of essays. Once again, nothing interesting on the interior. However, this cover is really quite exceptional, and I just kind of want to look at it for a little bit. It's kind of a collage, photo manipulation thing. You have what looks like, I want to say maybe like a cow or water buffalo skull or skeleton sitting here, and like a trash heap. There's bottles. And then you have kind of these cutout images of smokestacks, like cut from other photographs. Smoke coming out of it, kind of these pillar-like structures, and I like the choice of font, the Cooper Black, I believe, and this green. It's a really odd choice, but I like it a lot, and it's just such a dramatic, dystopian, apocalyptic cover that I like quite a bit. And here is the spine. Also, a fun little logo here, like a series of like three triangles. And this book is from, let's see if I can find out. This book is from 1970. And the cover photograph is by Bruce Anderson. So yeah, it's just it says it's a primer for environmental awareness. Yeah, that's essentially the book. I just love the cover. That's why I have it around. It's a very evocative cover to me. No Deposit, No Return, edited by Huey D. Johnson, 1970. All right. Here's another photo book. This one, I've actually seen a couple of copies, so I'm not sure how well known this book is, but I'm going to show it anyway. It is called Homage, Remembering Chernobyl, photographs by Jim Krantz. I've heard that name. I feel like he's probably some famous photojournalist that I'm just not learned enough to recognize. It's kind of a little full down. So yeah, this is a collection of photographs of Chernobyl, I believe, and some maybe some essays going alongside it. It says The Ballad of Chernobyl, translated from Russian. Okay. It's kind of like an epic poem about Chernobyl. And yeah, now we just get some photographs that explore Chernobyl and the area surrounding it, the little communities that are still subsisting around it. I've always had a fascination with Chernobyl. I know a lot of people have, and so getting to see, getting another look at it, in the form of this photo book is a real treat. It's just so many evocative and interesting landscapes, scenes, people, places. It's just a very rich and interesting subject matter, and I'm glad that this book exists. Going to continue going through. Yeah, I'm assuming these are like little farms surrounding Chernobyl in the area. This looks like maybe this was taken from a museum exhibition, a little presentation about Chernobyl. That's what I'm going to assume. This might be school textbooks or something. Some of these look like they were taken from a train or a moving vehicle. Just taken through windows in general. This is a fun photo. You have several layers of things going on, where you have the background, the car, reflection of a building next to the car, and then through the rear view, through the rear window, you see a lady. She might be being photographed. I think, no, that's not a photographer. There's maybe somebody else there. No, she's pointing. She's pointing off this way. Just a really interesting composition. And as you've probably noticed at this point, I have a little bit of a thing for bleak, abandoned scenes and environments. So this collection is right up my alley. I like it quite a bit. There's a lot of variety, too, in the kind of photographs. It isn't just... Well, I don't think that the main focus of... Well, this is a very famous Chernobyl scene, this old amusement park. But yeah, no, the majority of this book is about the community surrounding Chernobyl, which I think is an often overlooked aspect of the disaster, where you just had these people living in the area that were affected by it, and now we're taking a look at how they have how that disaster has affected their lives. So, and just taking a look at just these everyday, normal, ordinary people. Just really fun. Lots of personality in this book. I liked it a lot. All right, I'm gonna move on. Oh, I never saw this. What the hell? Is this a poster? Oh, yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, I never saw this. It's like opening a Christmas present. Wow. I'm getting a little bit of glare there. See if I can... Wow. That's pretty fantastic. I like that a lot. I never know what to do with ephemera, that comes with, be it records or magazines or books like this. Like, what do you do with it? Are you supposed to hang it up, or do you have to kind of let it sit with the book just so it doesn't get separated and then lose its value when you don't sell it with it, if you ever intend to sell it at all? Like, what? I don't know. I've never quite understood what you're supposed to do, but maybe that's just me. Let me see what else we have here. Oh, let's do this one. Converted into houses, 33 uniquely imaginative homes created from unconventional structures. Over 200 color photos. I like how they used to do this. Like, how like old records will say like, now in stereo, 200 color photos, and you remember when you'd get a DVD back in the day and it said like fully animated menu as like a as an advertisement for the thing. Like, wow, the menu selection is going to move around and do these fun things. I don't know. I just think it's very charming. So yeah, this book is about, well, yeah, exactly like it said, unconventional structures turned into homes. This book is from, what are you going to say, 1977. It's Penguin Books, I believe. So it's got a lot of really nice kind of mid-century art, well, interior design, I should say. I really like mid-century interiors. Oops. So yeah, this space was converted from a barn. Look at all those plants. That is just lovely. Really excellent photographs and, oops, keep doing that, skipping ahead 2 pages. Carriage house, a firehouse. Oh, that would be fun. Man, that's awesome. Look at that. Got your little spiral staircase. There it is over there. You can see the corner of the room. I also really like that lamp. I like how it fits in the hallway. Well, that's bizarre. That's a really odd exterior. Huh. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Look at that little little stool or something. Man, that's nice. I love that. Nice little skylight there. Oh man, that is so nice. Where did this go? You know, like where did this sort of design sensibility go? I mean, I could live without this. I do not need any. Man, that's a massive giant leopard they took that carpet from. Yeah, I'm not a fan of leopard print, but just in general, like I wish that some of these design style conventions would start coming back. I feel like they maybe are. I just kind of wonder, you know, is it really the same anymore? You know, I don't want to be like, you know, saying back, you know, back in the old day, the way they do it, you know. Don't make it like they used to. I think that that's kind of, oh, you know, it's a little anti-progress. Lots of cool trends in design, interior design, architecture nowadays. I don't know. I just love what they do, what they used to do with these spaces. That is incredible. That is so fun. Huh. Man, that is so unique. Man, okay. Oh, jungle. I love the old brickwork painted over. I think that looks really good. All right, I know I've taken a decent amount of time with this book. It's just because I love this sort of thing so much. Nice little Eames chair. Wow, that's weird. Somebody hung up their plastic wrap. Tugboat. I've always thought living on like a houseboat would be kind of fun, or like one of their old, you know, there's those people who have houses that operate in those old canals, like in London, that sort of thing. I always thought that would be really fun. I like the colors and the texture here, and that's so nice. Man, a caboose. Remember the Boxcar Children? The book series. It's a fun series. All right, let's flip through the last remaining things. Oof, that is nice. Oh man. Huh? That is so nice. Anyway, converted into houses, Charles A. Frachia and Jeremiah O. Bragstad. 33 uniquely imaginative homes created from unconventional structures. Remember, over 200 color photos. They're really pulling out all the stops, going really extravagant on this, but on this book. Wonderful book. Let's take a look here. Here's another one. Art in Architecture and Townscape, Denmark. That's weirdly specific. Some of this reminds me of the video game Stalker. Same with that Chernobyl book, of course, that we looked at just a bit ago, but this one as well. So this is in particular about street art in Denmark. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly? I'm not sure. I haven't looked so much at this book in particular. Yeah, I think that it is public art, public installations, murals, street art, graffiti in Copenhagen, Denmark, or the surrounding area. Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so it's kind of going city by city, I'm assuming. Ooh, look at that! Look at those colors. Sorry, you're getting some glare. I took like an hour to get light set up, and I know I still don't have it quite right. So yeah, this is just kind of a short, sweet little book, little collection of murals and public art. Oh, that's fun. That is a really nice photo. I like that. This one not so much. I don't care for it that much. Anyway, I'm just gonna flip through the rest of it. Oh, that's nice. Very nice, very nice. Oh, and I need to tell you when this was published. This was published in. I can turn the page. Oh, is it not gonna say? This book has been issued as a Christmas and New Year greeting 1969 to 1970, and it is not for sale. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna be arrested for this one. Let's see here. It's another. I want something that we can maybe just kind of skim through really quick. Let me see here. Yeah, we can do this one really quick. My friend Isaac gave this to me a while back. Jungle Doctor Spots a Leopard by Paul White. I think that these are the tales recounted by a missionary doctor in Africa. Yeah, the Jungle Doctor books. I guess it's a series. I don't know if these are nonfiction or not. The exciting adventures of Dr. Paul White, intrepid medical missionary, to the jungles of Tanganyika, East Africa, and his lovable African converts, whose native charm and, oh my gosh, and infectious humor make these stories thrilling and tenderly appealing episodes in today's world missionary enterprise. I'm sure there's nothing racist at all in this book. No, it's just a book, just a storybook. I'm mainly showing it just because I really like this cover. It's very pretty. I like how rough it is. I like the colors. Yeah, that's it. Jungle Doctor Spots a Leopard. This is from. Oof. Somebody got this 1967. So it's at least that old. 1963. All right, that's it. Okay. Okay, moving on. Okay, let's do this one. This book is called Wolves Like Us, Portraits of the Angelo Brothers by Dan Martinson. This book has a very interesting story. You may have heard of them. These brothers lived with their father in an apartment, a very small apartment. And their father, for whatever reason, and I don't remember, it's been a while since I've studied this, he would not let them leave the apartment. They essentially were confined to this very small apartment, all of them. They were all confined to this apartment for many years, probably a decade or more. And in their spare time, they would recreate their favorite films from scratch. They would make their own props. They would act out multiple parts, recreate their favorite films shot by shot. So more than anything, it's a fascinating story. And this book is a very close look at them, where they examine their life, but now their life outside of the apartment, because they've, of course, since been released from the apartment. So they're going to show, their props, homemade props. They made these all themselves. And they're just showing them off. Some absolutely lovely portraits. I believe these are film portraits. It's so bizarre. It's an incredibly bizarre story. I'd love it if they'd make a movie about their life. Like, if they all would band together and make a film, because they really have decades of experience. And they would recreate their favorite movie posters to package their homemade films in. It is just the most bizarre thing. Like, look at all of that. They did all of that. Hand drew everything. So I could really go over this whole book. But once again, this is something that I would encourage you read up on for yourself, because it's just that interesting. Here's their collection of VHS tapes that they referenced in the creation of all of these films. Oh, this is No Country for Old Men. Is it? Is this No Country for Old Men? I feel like it is. Isn't that Anton Chigurh? The Twin Towers? So if you can, find this book and look it up, because it's one of the most fascinating books that I have in my collection. And then later on in the book, it kind of shows their new lives outside of their apartment. And it's just really interesting. Like, despite how undeniably shitty and unfair their situation was, it's still a really kind of uplifting story. I don't know, to me. Like, just this incredibly close bond that they all have, and how they supported each other during a difficult time. And I don't know, it's just so, I don't know, it gives me a very conflicted feeling of warm and fuzziness, if you know what I'm saying. And like they couldn't go to barbers, so they wouldn't cut their hair. It's just an incredible story. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to recommend that you all check this out. It is Wolves Like Us, Portraits of the Angelo Brothers by Dan Martinson. There may actually be a documentary on these guys out. I don't know. I feel like I've heard that somewhere. All right, we're going to move on. Okay, let's do this one. This is a book of photographs of Berlin. I'm not going to try and pronounce the title, because we all know I would fail miserably. There's kind of like this little insert in here that has the copyright info. This is from 2009, another more recent book. And I picked this up just because I like the images in it. Of course, that's why you'd buy any photo book. I don't know why I'm saying that in particular. But I liked the way that these photographs were shot. Reminds me a little bit of that book that I showed right after my break, Observations in the Ordinary. Kind of reminds me of the sort of photos that you found in there. Some of them feel a little touristy, you know, but then there's some like this that are right up my alley, you know, more bleak, depressed scenes. Yeah, I really like this. That's really cool. I don't even know what that is. Maybe it used to be like a little soda fountain stand or something. Not sure. Just gonna move along. Yeah, this book is a little hit or miss for me. I really like some of the photos. Some of them, however, like... I mean, well... I don't know. Some of them... Well, I like my photos a little bit more bleak. And so... I know that this book is trying to show both sides of it, and I think that that's an important thing. It just ends up being that I tend to prefer one perspective over the other. But in general, I really like the way this is presented, and I don't know if you can see, there's a little plane flying over. Just a man carrying his baby in a stroller, a push stroller, over like a construction site on top of some abandoned railroad tracks. I'm not sure what this man is doing. Is that the Berlin Wall? I feel like it probably is. He would be remiss in making a book about the city of Berlin and not at least referencing the Berlin Wall. Yeah, a little watchtower, a little campfire, little people on motorcycles. Well, what is that? Looks like a tornado hit a parade float that was supposed to resemble a cruise ship. That's kind of what it looks like to me. That's weird. Construction site. I'm gonna skip through some of this. Yeah, some of this I just don't care for that much. Yeah, that about brings this book to a close. We're going to move on pretty quickly. There's the back of it. How about we take a look at a couple of just plain old book covers, if I can reach them. Okay, here we go. Got it. All right, here is a cover that I really like. Messages from the Stars, Communication and Contact with Extraterrestrial Life by Ian Ridpath. This is by Harper and Row. And let's be honest, I really picked this up for the cover. I like very much. So the nice primary colors and this font and the way it's arranged. It's just a lovely cover. There may be some little graphs in here, but generally I think it's just a bunch of kind of esoteric ramblings about communication and contact with extraterrestrial life. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I'm not going to really talk about it that much. We'll find out when it was published. Hello, 1978. Dedicated to Carl Sagan. Well, that's sweet of them. I'm sure he appreciated that. Messages from the Stars. And I'm also going to show another cover really quick, one that I really like. Social Class, Race and Psychological Development. Edited by Martin Deutsch, Erwin Katz, and Arthur R. Jensen. And this is just an excellent cover. So many covers from that period are just kind of works of art on their own. And I feel should be appreciated, you know, as works of art. I just love the way that they worked the title into here, like just the layout of it, and then just this really fun little collage of different faces. Very nice spine as well. And then on the back, I'm going to have to bring this in here. Really love this little owl logo. I'm not sure if you're able to see it that well. There's a really cute little owl logo for the company that published this, Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston Incorporated. Peter Smith used to own this. Shout out to Peter Smith. (1968). That's when this was published. All right, we're going to set this one to the side. Okay, I think that my uncle is done running up and down the stairs. It's completely understandable. He is working from home currently due to the virus. So he's just trying to get a little bit of exercise. But it can be a little noisy when he is running up and down the stairs. Now, anyway, getting back to what we were doing. Here is a book called In Opposition, Images of American Dissent in the 60s by Benedict J. Fernandez. And so it's essentially just a book about protests, I think. It's a book of photographs of Americans. They are not the great majority of Americans, the forgotten Americans, the non-shouters, the non-demonstrators mentioned by Richard Nixon in his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention. To the contrary, they are Americans caught in action in the streets, Americans using signs, flags, buttons, masks, and most of all, their own bodies to capture public attention and express a point of view. Okay, so that's kind of what this book is about. This, I want to see when this was published. 1968. I've had a lot of books from the late 60s in this stream. Let's keep looking here. So yeah, it's going to be more photojournalism of protests. A lot of very, the word is escaping me, evocative images, very visceral, I'm assuming. Getting sprayed down with some water. That is fun. Just gonna flip through some pages here. Wow, that is an interesting face. That is very interesting. I haven't seen many people with a face like that. Nothing against it, it's just very unique. Vietnam protesting. Whoa. Something just fell upstairs and startled me. Excuse me. That is some sweet typography. That hand lettering. It's good. Good stuff. How were people so good at this? Making signs like that. I'm very jealous of their command of the pen. It was like Bernie Sanders. Look at that corncob pipe. Man, marching with the corncob pipe. George Lincoln Rockwell walking behind his assassin. I'm going to have to read up on this. So that's an assassin. He's going to assassinate that guy? Interesting. Oh my. That is freaky. So, once again, I'm not going to dwell on all of this. Oh my. Is this true? How shocking. I'm going to move on pretty quickly. I don't think I have that many more books to go. My voice is kind of getting a little tired, and so I'm not sure how long I'm going to continue this stream. But I still have a couple more books I want to get through. In Opposition, Images of American Dissent in the 60s. I like this one a lot. In general, I just like photojournalism quite a bit, and that was an interesting time. Definitely a worthy candidate for a book of pictures about. The next book we're going to look at is Mind Visions, Vincent de Ghirlandaio. I guess that's how you'd say it. 1979. So these are kind of early, if I'm remembering. No, I thought there was more photo manipulation in this. These are just kind of surreal. little images, kind of art photography. Generally, it isn't something that I'm hugely interested in, because some of it can just seem a little contrived. But I kind of liked this one, especially these ones of children wearing old woman masks. I always like seeing kids wearing weird masks. I think this says something. This is trying to say something about our society, but I'm not quite sure what. Yeah, like with a lot of stuff like this, like I kind of, the imagery is just so on the nose, and you know, it just sometimes feels a little ham-fisted, a little pretentious, etc. Some of these aren't bad, though. But there are other books in my collection that I like a little bit more than this one. This is kind of relevant to our current day and age, don't you think? This guy's gonna eat his own hand with a fork. I think it's trying to say something. What could it be? Oh. Oh. Okay, all right. Oh. Nightmare Visitor. Yeah, I would agree if I was visited by that man. That'd be rather nightmarish. Anyway, that's kind of the book. It's okay. It's not amazing. It's okay. It's okay. It has some fine compositions in it. Like I said, though, not among my favorites. Let's see. Looks like once again I'm going to have to detach the mic in order to reach the next couple of books. Give me a second. By the way, I don't know if anybody is wondering, but I'm using the Micro UC Pro microphone. Excellent microphone, very, very, very small, a little lavalier mic. Generally, it's intended for field recording purposes, but in this case, I decided to use it, take advantage of its form factor, use it as a lavalier. So that's what I've been using. Anyway, let's just look at the cover on this one now. Agrarian Problems in Peasant Movements in Latin America. It's quite the dense title. Edited by Rodolfo Stavenhagen. I like that name. It's a lovely, thick book. I love the way the text is arranged on the spine. It's from Doubleday. Let's see when this was published. 1970. And I mostly, once again, got it for the cover. I think that this cover art, this photograph is extremely pleasant. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Peruvian fashion style design. So this just kind of hits the spot for me. I just think it's a beautiful cover, beautiful photo. I'm just going to bring it in a little closer. I love the colors. Texture of it, it's just lovely. The book itself, I can't really speak to it. I haven't read it. I believe it's probably just a very scholarly sociological, anthropological discussion of Latin America, politics. Frankly, I'm not that interested in, but love the cover. I think it's beautiful. Agrarian problems and peasant movements in Latin America. Yeah, it's quite nice. Moving on. Let's do another paperback. Now, I actually own 2 copies of this book. One is the paperback version, one is hardcover. Initially, I think I did it because I made a mistake. I didn't realize that I already had the paperback, but I still kept the hardcover because this book has some really lovely photographs in it, and they're just sometimes a little difficult to look at in paperback version, but I personally like the design of the paperback version better. This is The Secret Country by Janet and Colin Board, illustrated throughout with photographs by the authors. In search of a secret force emanating from the earth, known to the ancients but forgotten by modern man, Janet and Colin Board have explored the British Isles. They have photographed the sentinels of prehistory, the standing stones, stone circles, henges, hill forts, and burial mounds. They have elicited from the folklore of the people 650 legends of dragons, monsters, devils, giants, ghosts, fairies, and witches that relate to the mysterious monuments. And they ask, do all these silent stones, these fragments of a vanished mythology, represent lost ties with earth currents, a power within our planet that can be revitalized for the benefit of man? It kind of lost me there at the end. But in general, this is a concept that I really like. I've always been very fascinated by stone circles, cairns, mounds, that sort of thing. And this book is kind of an exploration of a lot of those. And like I said, it has some really nice, really pleasing images in it. Like they said, taken by the authors themselves. And I just love how grainy and contrasty and dirty it feels. I just think it's lovely. So I'll just scroll through here because there's some very decent images in here. Once again, I really enjoy the sculptural aspect of a lot of this stuff. Like I said, I like employing kind of a sculptural approach in my photography, and so books like this I really enjoy because I like seeing how they render these scenes. Look at that. That is lovely. Once again, I'd love to use some of these photos as artwork, as an album cover, but once again, can you do that sort of thing? Yeah, I don't like that very much. That can't be legal, can it? I don't know. Who cares, really? Nobody cares about me. They aren't going to come calling. It would never happen to me. So yeah, just lots of really fun little photos. Very atmospheric. If any of you are aware of the concept of hauntology, that's haunt as in haunted house, hauntology. It's kind of this weird little, well, it's more of a philosophical concept, but it's been kind of used as a genre, very similar to vaporwave. In fact, I think that vaporwave is categorized as being hauntological. Anyway, go on Bandcamp and search up the tag hauntology, and you'll get some interesting music. A lot of it is focused on British library music from the 1960s and 70s. It's very interesting. Well, think about people like Boards of Canada. It's kind of stuff like that. And it goes very well with this kind of pagan folklore, folk horror. Think of the original Wicker Man film, things like that. Anyway, a lot of this stuff reminds me of that. This is arguably, it just gives me those hauntology vibes. That is lovely. That is beautiful. Is this St. George and the Dragon? Still love that story. Loch Ness Monster, ghosts, spirals, symbols, Stonehenge. very fun, secret country. When was this from? Is this 70? Did I say? I think I did. 1976. Yeah. Love this book. Okay. Oh yeah. Let's do this one. This one I like more for the cover, but it's just so charming to me. Computers and Reading Instruction, Leo D. Jeffrion and Olga P. Jeffrion. And I don't know, just look at this. Look at this cover. Just take it in for a little bit. It is so charming to me. Just kind of this old, very rudimentary pixel art. Snake, tree, chair, pond, huge fucking apple just sitting in the distance. Here's a book for educators who want to explore the potential offered by computers in the teaching of reading. This is kind of ironic timing with so many people doing school from home these days. Oh, and we saw this logo, series of 3 triangles, a while back. I forget what book it was on. Anyway, there's some pretty entertaining graphics in here. Salivary glands, hell yeah. Let's keep going. When was this published? 1983. So personal computers were kind of just becoming a thing. And I like this period of, like, I don't know, just look at this. This is so interesting. Examples of special effects possible. Oh, so it's showing you how to write in italics and write in bold to generate interest for your student. Yeah, so again, I just find this incredibly charming. And I also really like the design of vintage computers. Like, look at that. That is so fun. Micro Mouse. Yes. Screen from Micro Mother Goose. Nursery Rhyme and Micro Mother Goose are 2 examples of software that introduce reading through rhymes and simple songs. In nursery time, children select a rhyme by pressing any key, while in Micro Mother Goose, they move a cursor to the appropriate item. After a selection is made, both programs draw a picture based on the rhyme and play the song while displaying the lyrics on the screen. The melodies create evade the shortcomings of synthetic speech because many small computers can play musical notes without difficulty. It's just so quaint, you know? So, like, here are some, like, little scripts or short stories for children to write. I love this. This is why I was showing you this. The dog jumps. Look at that dog. Look at that beautiful, immaculate dog jumping over a, well, quite a daunting barrier, obstacle in his path. And look at the grace with which he bounds, leaps over said obstacle. It's truly inspiring, very beautiful, wonderfully rendered technically, and I just feel it on an emotional level. Okay, I'm done. I don't know if there's anything else that I just like this look. You know, I've played Dwarf Fortress in the past, which is like an ASCII roguelike game, and I don't know, I get similar vibes. I've said vibes a lot. This stream, who cares? Yeah, let's just flip through. I don't know if there's much more. Lots of really fun, very corporate-looking pictures of children using computers, computer propaganda when you're still trying to convince families that, like, computers are can be like a useful thing. They're friendly and can serve a purpose, you know. Just what a time. Anyway, computers and reading instruction. Okay, let's move along. Okay, this is what I was going to do. An old book of mine, a book that I've had for a while, Colonies in Space. Now, I'm very pissed at myself because back when I got this, I used to hate dust covers. And so there's this beautiful dust cover that had this glorious illustration of like a spaceship, mothership, it was beautiful, and I just threw it away because I was like, no, I don't like dust covers. I've been kicking myself ever since. Dedicated to John F. Kennedy, copyright 1977. So this is essentially a discussion of like interstellar travel, living in space, and the technical difficulties that would entail, how we'll overcome it. Has lots of really fun science fiction art interspersed with a lot of like technical mumbo jumbo that I'm sure most people like to think means something, but like, for a lot of these people, like the idea of conceptualizing like how we're going to live in space. Like, look at this little pickup truck on the surface of Mars. It's just a, once again, very charming, very interesting glimpse into the time that it was written. Yeah, here's their diagram for their own little spaceship. Here's how much fuel you need. Here's the payload. The moon landing. Once again, like I really miss kind of this era of science fiction and fantasy in general. Like they just took themselves so seriously and just created some beautiful art with it. It's just a really interesting time. It was just so optimistic, space colony. Like, I wish that we could get back to that a little bit. Like, science fiction has become a lot more bleak. I want more of that Star Trek future, like old Star Trek. Just lovely colors. Once again, this is the sort of stuff that inspired No Man's Sky, which, love it or hate it, had some wonderful, beautiful graphics, beautiful use of colors, very in keeping with sort of style that these books and this sort of artwork. Oh yeah, and they talk about up to now we have looked at how the colony will be built, how the colonists will live, what kind of work they will do, and why it will be important. But the colonists will be no cadre of grimly self-sacrificing robots. They will be ordinary human beings. What will they do for recreation when the work is done and it's time to relax and take it easy? What will they do? An obvious activity enjoyed the world over and beyond is sex, and in particular, there will be sex in Zero-G. Thus far, the all-male crews of Straight Arrow astronauts have had little opportunity to sample the delights of this, but Arthur Clarke, I believe he wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. Arthur Clarke, who has foreseen so much of importance in space developments, has been here too. This much we can predict, he says. Weightlessness will bring new forms of erotica, and about time too. Yeah, it's just weird, like, just the way that they think about this sort of thing, or used to think about it. Just very odd time. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this book, close the book. Yeah, Colonies in Space. Who's this by? T.A. Heppenheimer. It's a fun name. Okay, I'm gonna do one more book, and then I'm gonna call it quits because I'm getting a little tired. This is one of my all-time favorite books in my collection. Not even sure if this is a book. It is Harvard Educational Review, Architecture and Education, Volume 39, Number 4, 1969. And then on the back, it just has this little quotation about snow, the first snow of the season. And so, yeah, it's about what it says it is: architecture and education, how it relates to education. And what I like so much about this book is, well, not only are there some wonderful photographs, but just the layout of it, and they do some really unique things with the layout of this book. So I'm just going to take you through it really quick. It's kind of giving a history of what they're talking about, I guess. And here's like their little subscription service where you could subscribe to get more books like this, I guess. There's just been a lot of text so far. Here we get to some of the interesting stuff. They incorporate a lot of interesting art in this book. Drawings by Saul Steinberg. I'm not sure how all of it necessarily relates, but now look at this, like how they play with the format of text and how it's distributed around the page. I find it very inspiring, and like, not just because it's all over the place, but like how put together it looks while still bringing some level of, you know, not necessarily randomness, but like, this is another thing I love seeing in books is children's art. I love art by children. Okay, who has the better picture here? Do you like Billy's? Margie's? The other Billy? I don't know if it's the same Billy, but we'll just call him Billy 2. Or Arthur's. Leave a comment to tell me who wins. Winner will get nothing. And then we have like little classroom architecture. We get some beautiful black and white photographs of classrooms and schools, playgrounds, just general loiter spots, I guess. Then we get into this section. It's a bunch of like really nice calligraphy. And then we get to this, which is really interesting. It's like tracing paper overlays with these really interesting, like I don't think that this is actually intended to be a, I think this is a piece of art. It's an architectural rendering that's intended as art. Maybe? I don't know. Is that a galaxy? And we get a little bit more calligraphy with some quotes from all around the place. More of that, more of that. We get more words. This one really reminds me a lot of the Charas book that we opened our stream on, so I think that it is a fitting kind of bookend. Because a lot of how it is presented reminds me a lot of that book. And again, look at this, like such creative, yet well put together layout. I love it. I really like this photo. I like it a lot. So again, a little bit more urban planning. It seems like we've run into urban planning quite a bit this stream. Got some slums. Squatters in Hong Kong. Mourn also for all the butterflies. Not sure what this is. Maybe these are just ads now. Yeah, I'll bet these are just ads. Huh. Huh. Oh, look at those. Look at those covers. That font, I love that. Oof. It's nice. That is nice. Look at this stuff. This is so good. That logo and how it's used as bullet points. Look at that little mark down there. And then this, like, so good. Well, that brings us to the end of the book, and I think with that, I am going to call it quits on the stream. I'm not sure how many people have actually watched it live. It doesn't really matter. I had fun doing it. And I really hope that you enjoyed going through some of my favorite books in my collection of all time with me. You know, it's a little bit more of an experiment. You know, I don't know if it's something that you're even interested in, but I thought it would be a very nice, relaxing way to spend a stream. Thought you might get some enjoyment out of it, and to be honest, that's, you know, I know that I've avoided talking about the current coronavirus crisis and the quarantine that is impending for many people, has already begun for some. I feel like people need more things like this in their lives. And I mean, I know it doesn't make a lot of difference if nobody watches it, but that doesn't matter. I've occupied a very good portion of my own day, so in that regard, my effort here has succeeded, at least in keeping myself entertained. So with that, I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to end the stream. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you will join me in the future. I like doing this, and I hope you do as well. So anyway, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Goodbye.